Hello, everyone. It's Aaron St. Dennis, the FF Mad Scientist here, and this is the Mad Science Lab podcast. Today, we are continuing on with the Studs and Duds series, and here to join me is Alex Michael. And if you can ask Alex, I'm sure he would agree that this might be the first episode I've ever filmed where I wish I had the outtakes from the green room saved, because they would probably be more entertaining than the show is today. But having said that, thank you, Alex, for joining me. Hopefully we can get through this episode a little smoother than I got through the green room preparation for the show.
That's good. Full of fun. More fun to come.
All right. Well, thank you for joining me and suffering through that. I want to take a second here to tell everyone where they can find you and your work.
Yeah, so I'm on Twitter at Dynasty Guru NFL. I'm a feature writer for RPO Football and Fantasy Six Pack. And when the college season starts, I'll be writing for 5 Yard College, which is a UK-based site.
All right. We've got some studs and duds here. I'm sure you're going to have some hot takes because people are going to have to fly all the way across the globe to track you down if they don't like it. So fuck them. That's the theory.
Right.
I'm in Canada too. So all those people in the States who don't like my takes, well, it's great because I'm in another country. So fuck you if you don't like it. That's my theory. Right. All right. Having said that, what's up?
Yeah, I was to say, if they can make it this far, then we can have a bust.
Exactly. If you hate my thoughts on Adam Thielen that much, well, congratulations. Come find me. All right, let's start with your first stud. I hate this, not because I hate your stud, but because I don't want anyone else to see this. I get him consistently in the last round, 30, 25, whatever it is, of every single draft. I got him, I think, for $1 yesterday in an auction draft. It is wonderful. Let's not steam him up. I may censor this entire part of the podcast. And by the time this hits YouTube, it may just be an alien with a Carolina Panthers jersey on. So your first stud is Carolina wide receiver, newly acquired. Adam Thielen was wide receiver 29 last season, 716 receiving yards, 6 touchdowns, 219.25 full PPR points. Good for 12.9 per game. Current Fantasy Pros ADP was 135. Let's see if it's gone up a little bit this week. Adam Thielen is 134, wide receiver 54. And I'd like to call bullshit on the Fantasy Pros 134 ADP because I've gotten him in like the 250s, in like 200 to 250 this week. So there's no way anybody's taking him at 135. That's some bullshit. What are your thoughts about Adam Thielen?
Yeah, so actually, I think I'm taking him around 170 just to be sure, especially in best ball this year. But
yeah, I'm bringing it up while you go through that. I'm going to bring up the NFC ADP because I don't think Fantasy Pros is on the ball with that one. So we'll see. But go ahead, tell us why he's your stud.
Yeah, so I mean, the Panthers' offense is completely reformed this season, and obviously Bryce Young is now at the helm, and he's going to want someone reliable as he sort of warms his way into the league. There's no real competition in sense of kind of, I want the ball. Like Thielen is the alpha in that wide receiver core in Carolina. Way more so than Terrence Marshall, Mingo, Chark. These are good guys. But if you're a QB starting out in the NFL, who are you going to trust first? And it just seems like Thielen has brought the same energy that he had in Minnesota all the way to Carolina. He's hyping up his teammates. Everyone loves him around. He's just like that super guy that everyone wants to be around. And I think people are going to want to get him the ball.
Fantasy Pros has him at 134. NFFC has him at 153. I think he's going even later than that. That's what, like 13th round? I think he's going much later than that. I've had him closer to the 20th round. So I definitely like it. I don't know if he's got anything left in the tank, but you're right. for a rookie quarterback, it would seem to be beneficial to have a consistent, proven veteran receiver there. Jonathan Mingo, DJ Shark, not a whole lot else. No McCaffrey. What do we have? What else do we have there? Miles Sanders. I think this is going to fall on Sanders and Thielen. And at 134, 150, 180, whatever the hell you're getting him, he definitely seems to be a worthwhile gamble for me. You can see the ADP screen. Yep. What are your thoughts about this range here with that he's going with?
Yeah, that range is kind of what I like to call the ugly picks in the draft. I mean, those guys, could prove to be shrewd picks if they go but it's really 50-50 swing.
Yeah.
Everyone on that sort of section. If we start with Elijah Moore at the top there, we know what he can do, but will he do it?
Yeah.
Beckham hasn't caught a ball in a year and a half. He's in a new team with the quarterback who doesn't pass. Doing that with quotation marks. Alan Lazard, new team, same QB. Will it just be plug and play? Don't know. Myers. I think Myers is a really good sneaky pick around this area as well. If the ADP is correct, because Garoppolo again, new team. I think he's probably one of the QBs who's at risk of losing his job early. I don't know why I get that feeling. I do like O'Connell that they drafted.
Yeah.
But I have a feeling that if Garoppolo wants his place, he's going to do what he does best and just pass it nice and short to the outside, and that's where Jacoby Myers is going to be. So I think that could be good. Zay Flowers, same argument as Beckham. Thielen is the only one in that kind of group who you look at and you say, this guy's going to get the ball.
I think he's the only reliable veteran here. There's a couple of players I wouldn't mind taking a shot at, but whether it's Moore, Quentin Johnston, Zay Flowers, Sky Moore, like they're all young, high upside plays that have absolutely no floor. Thielen's the only one. I get he doesn't probably have the ceiling of those young guys, but he seems to be the safest at all of them. I don't mind Myers either, but there's some guys here I'm not touching. Like, you're right, OBJ. I don't want Lazard. I don't want Mooney. Boyd, DPJ. So it's kind of an ugly point in the draft, and I don't mind taking the really boring pick and just snagging them.
Right, and I think even a couple of places lower, there was like Nico Collins, KJ Osborne. They've got a bit of like camp hype around them. Those could be interesting again, but like you said, Thielen's definitely the safest option there.
Who would you like to talk about next?
Ooh, should we go stud or should we go dud?
Dealer's choice.
Let's go dud.
Dud. Which was Penny?
Yep.
Yeah. I have your four guys written down, but I don't like to know if they're studs or duds in advance because I don't want to have an argument made in advance. I like to wing this. I like to not go in going, I'm just going to trash this guy. But your dud is Eagles running back Rashad Penny, RB 70 last year. Obviously health issues because Rashad Penny. 346 rushing yards, 16 receiving, 6 touchdowns, 81.45 full PPR points, good for 16.29 per game. So he was pretty good when he did play. He just didn't play. Current Fantasy Pros ADP was 110. Let's take a look and see if it's updated this week. He is currently going 110 overall, RB 39. Why are you low on Penny?
Yeah, I just think like in terms of value, he hasn't ever really. So I should caveat this and say I'm a Seahawks fan, and so I've been burned by Rashad Penny, not just in fantasy but in real life as well. And even when he has been on the field, he's too inconsistent to be able to say, "Oh, I'm going to start this guy every week." And I think he's so high up on the ADP, and people are forgetting that this guy probably won't start every week. He might be in a 1-2 punch with Swift, with Swift maybe acting as the kind of slot receiver.
You know what? You know who I have a lot of shares of? Kenneth Gainwell. because both of those guys might be out before training camp starts. It's Penny and Swift, the two most injury-prone running backs in the league. So
yeah, and Gainwell is a shrewd stash, to be honest with you, because he'll be there to pick up the pieces, and everyone knows what Gainwell can do when he's afforded reps with the ball. With Penny, even when he had his nice run of games in the end of 2021, you started him there's no way that anyone would have started him the week that he got 27, 25 points or whatever he got.
I didn't.
Right. And so then the next week you start him and then he scores 6 or 7.
Sounds about right.
And then you say, and then basically you drop him from the next round, and then he hits 21 and 34. I'm just looking at sleepers scoring here, and then 27. So it's always a question, and this is what I like to call the Marquise Goodwin syndrome. Whereas, you could never rely on the guy to do 2 weeks in a row, and if you did, you would be stressing yourself out every week with roster selection. And
Sorry, go ahead.
No, just say that's one of the reasons why I'd just pass on him, knowing that he'd be too much of a headache to have on my roster.
Exactly. But this section of the draft he goes in among these running backs, it's ugly, and I still think I'd rather not take him over. And most of these guys, Jamal Williams, Herbert, Gibson, Perini. I don't like Charbonnet, so I take him over Charbonnet. I'm probably not in on A-Chain or Harris, but there's nobody in this range that I'm all that high on, and nobody I'm really targeting. And I'd still pretty much take every single one of them. I think I'd rather take Zeke and just hope he lands on a good team or in a good situation over him. What are your thoughts here? It's just kind of an ugly zone to stay away from.
Yeah, I mean, I've been this season. I've been trying to clear three decent running backs in the first 6 to 7 rounds. And I'll probably go for someone like a Chubb or a Eckler or Henry, something like one big stud, and then maybe like Swift or someone else like that. But so by this point, if I've got 3 running backs, you can afford to kind of take a punt on say out of these guys, I would probably lean on Gibson.
Yeah.
Just because I've kind of been in on him from the start, and there's always, again, good camp hype about him. Everyone seems to be really excited about him. And when I watch him very closely, it just seems to be like no one's really writing him the right plays. And you might disagree, but I think there's a few guys on there that will probably score points, but it's a case of, do you want to take the risk on one or the other? Yeah. It's more like Damian Harris could be the same. There could be weeks where he gets 20, 30.
Yeah.
The same as Penny.
That looks like a running back graveyard, that area right there. Yeah. I'm not in at all.
Yeah. Even Jamal Williams, yeah.
Your next guy, is he a stud or a dud, Najee Harris?
Oh, he's a stud.
All right. So his stud is Pittsburgh running back Najee Harris, RB 14 last year, 1,038 rushing yards, 229 through the air, 10 total touchdowns, 346.96 fantasy points in full PPR, good for 20.41 per game. Currently ADP 26 overall on Fantasy Pros. Let's see. Najee's 26 overall, RB 11. I am targeting Najee. I have him in a lot of leagues because he started off last year so bad for the first month and a half of the season and burned so many people. I remember a couple of leagues I was in, you couldn't give him away. You had to drop him off waivers. You couldn't even trade him for anything. But in the leagues where I was able to hold on to him for the season, he was a league winner towards the end. But the problem is most of the people who drafted Najee high never held on to him long enough to see those benefits. So they're bitter, and his ADP is suppressed as a result. And that's why I'm in. What are your thoughts on him?
Yeah, I mean, I think completely, especially in dynasty leagues, there's a lot of sentiment that kind of went out the window last season, and it's just like trying to take advantage of those guys who've maybe had enough or who've got it in their heads that he's not reliable. I mean, pragmatically thinking, he's the only one who's going to be in that offense who's going to be solid. Pickett, question marks over his head. Pickens, question mark over his head.
Yep.
Robinson, question marks over his head. Najee Harris, you give him the ball, he will run with the ball. Like 20 points per game, that's nothing to be scoffed at. Like, there aren't many players who will get you more than 20 points a game. And if he's your RB1 or even your RB2, that's super solid. I think I did one draft from the 4 this year, and I got Chubb, and then I got him on the spin. So I actually had my running backs 1 and 2 with Chubb and Chubb and Harris, meaning that basically I've got 2 running backs who are in poor offenses, essentially, and those offenses are going to be relying heavily on their number 1 running backs.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with it. I like it. What are your thoughts on the range he's in there with those guys on the board there?
Yeah, I mentioned Chubb just now. I think Chubb's definitely over him. I don't know what's with the Sleeper app, but Sleeper has Chubb at like 45.
Yeah, Sleeper. I have a whole article that hasn't come out yet, and it's basically on that's what you do come redraft. You have to look through. Each site does it for different players. There's just these large ADP gaps where you have certain players that are being suppressed because the original list they put up, they just had some guys buried for unknown reasons. So they're those guys where you get to a round and you're like, oh shit, I didn't know that guy was there. You had to scroll down. So it's just a case where I like I said, I have the article written about the difference, the people who are the biggest values based on each site's ADP. And some of them, like Nick Chubb, like you said, at 45, some of them are really weird. They're all over the place. And I'm not sure how they come up with these sometimes, but sorry, continue.
No, it's good. It's a good point. I mean, and it's good for everyone to know especially if they're using Sleeper. But no, I think if you look at Harris in this group, like, he's the RB11 there. There's no reason why he can't be in the top 7. There is definitely some stiff competition. Obviously, Bijan Robinson's going way over anyone will ever predict. He could have a very average season, but if you remember back to 2 years ago, everyone was so hyped about Najee Harris coming into the league. And was like, we've never seen anything like it. We've never seen anything like it. And as soon as Najee Harris was drafted, everyone was like, Bijan Robinson. No one's seen anything like him. And granted, Robinson has definitely proved himself at college level, as had Harris. Harris had a bit of a down year and everyone's kind of out on him. Will that happen again with Bijan? Yes or no? Only time will tell. But I don't think he's going to be finishing as the running back 4. Like, that's a deep running back class. You got McCaffrey, Eckler, Chubb, Taylor, Henry. Like, these guys are pros. They know what they're doing.
The Bijan question, it's a lot to me like a few years ago with Pitts. In order to return on his ADP, Pitts would have had to have basically, even if Pitts had the greatest rookie tight end season in history, he probably still wasn't returning on his ADP. Bijan, it's a little different with running back, but he would have to have one of the greatest running back seasons of all time to return on the value he's currently going at redraft. And it's just like, I get his dynasty value and how he's going to be great, but he's a rookie. Why is he going so high?
Yeah, and if he turns out to be a once in a generational player, no one will be surprised.
Doesn't mean he has to do it as a rookie.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And I think people may be thinking, we have to take him, especially in dynasty leagues. We have to take him here because if we don't take him here, we'll never get him again.
That's the problem with drafting this time of year. The casuals haven't come back till August, and the people who are drafting now are degenerates, and the degenerates play dynasty, and the dynasty degenerates overvalue youth sometimes. So you see players that are way up in ADP that are going to come down because the average person who comes back in August isn't going to draft Bijan at, fifth overall over McCaffrey. They're going to go to the names they know. So,
yeah, I did a draft. I did a draft yesterday, and I think he went at 108.
and I still think he comes down even lower than that, but it's more reasonable than it's been. But
yeah,
all right,
absolutely.
moving on to your last guy, we have it's so weird to say, New York Giants wide receiver Paris Campbell was wide receiver 48 last year, 623 receiving yards, 3 touchdowns, 181.35 full PPR points, good for 10.67 per game. ADP on Fantasy Pros currently sits at 200. I feel like there's a lot of room for movement down there, so let's check. Where the hell? Oh, 201. Wide receiver 72. What are your thoughts on Campbell?
Yeah, so he is a dud for me, and I think the points and the scores that he put up last year are kind of the best we might see of him. And this is full healthy season. Arguably the only slot receiver. The offense was a little shaky, which I guess he can maybe take part of the blame, but not a large share of it.
Yeah.
And I was so hyped with Paris Campbell coming out of Ohio State in 2019. So I've been in on him like from the beginning, and
It's just never got there.
Yeah, I felt sorry for him the first 2 years, and then now he's kind of had a season in the league where he was, he wasn't injured. He basically had all the potential in front of him, and he only kind of scored well in 3 or 4 games last season.
Yeah.
So the average points per game is kind of skewed because there were games where I'm counting again using sleeper points 1, 2, 3, 4. So in like a half PPR, there were 6 games where he scored 2 points, 2, and you can't have a guy like that in your team. And I think the reason I obviously it's quite obvious that he's not going to be drafted high, but there is a bit of hype around him at camp.
Yeah, more than you would expect.
Yeah, and I think that's partly down to Wan'Dale Robinson not being fully fit, because I think Wan'Dale Robinson he's what they call like a gadget player, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But like he's more comfortable in the slot, and so if Paris Campbell doesn't put up numbers, like they'll just move Robinson into the slot because he's definitely capable of handling it.
Truly scary thought was what you had to say at the beginning. The fact that last year could be his career season. Oh, good God. For someone who came out as a rookie out of Ohio State with so much hype, could you imagine if that's his career year last year? That's truly horrifying.
Yeah. I mean, I hope not, obviously. Like, I really want him to do well because I still hold a couple of shares here and there. Yeah. But, like...
Too many receivers on this Giants team, though. Yeah, so you see he's going at 200 overall. Oh, right off the bat, I can see 3 or 4 names. So Wan'Dale above him. 3 or 4 names easily, maybe 5 or 6 names in this range that I would prefer over him. Wan'Dale, Rice, Gallup, Chark, Sheehy. Pretty much everyone above him I'd take. And even below him, I'd probably take Renfro, Reed, Mechie, Downs. Like, what do you think of this range here?
Yeah, that's a solid range. Like, and then that's another reason why I'm kind of out on drafting Campbell this year. Like, if I've had him in existing dynasty rosters, then fine. I might just wait it out at least until the season comes along. Something else might happen. But I've been picking up loads of shares of Downs, Rice, Reed, Robinson. I've held quite a few shares of as well. And I can't seem to get Mechie anywhere. Like, no one wants to trade Mechie.
I know he even in drafts, what's that stupid ad that came up on the? I seen it on the screen. Apparently, Fantasy Pros has an ad on the side of their screen. Has that always been there? Sorry, I clicked off. I was on the other screen and I'm zoomed in and I only see the players. And I looked over and I said, what the fuck is that? Mechie. I got completely distracted there. Mechie. He's someone, even in drafts, like I have him queued up for like 3-4 rounds later. And I look and I said, where the hell's Mechie at? And I look and I'm like, wow, he's gone already. What? I don't get it. Actually, it was funny. It happened a few times yesterday. It happened in my draft yesterday with Penny, who you also didn't like. And he was one where I'm sitting there and I'm getting toward the end and I'm going, well, I guess if worse comes to worse, I can add Penny for depth. He might get me a couple of good games. And then I looked and I said, where the hell is Penny? And someone said, scroll up. He got drafted in the 10th round. And I said, you're freaking kidding me, right? Scroll up. Sure enough, the 10:03 is Rashad Penny. And I'm going, what the fuck are we doing? So.
But that's exactly where fantasy pros are having 110, 103.
I don't get it. I don't get what some of these early ADPs are. So I switch over sometimes to NFFC, but even that, some of these early ADPs, I don't know if it's just people, I get a lot of underdog best ball players playing right now. So they're just swinging for the fences and hoping, out of their 900 builds, they're hoping this is the one that wins them $1 million. But
right.
All right. Well, thank you, Alex, for joining me. That concludes our studs and duds. You want to take another shot here to tell everyone where they can find you and your work?
Yeah, firstly, pleasure's all mine. Great to finally see you face to face as well.
Yeah, it didn't start off great, but we got there.
No, we're good, all good. Yeah, so I'm on Twitter at Dynasty Guru NFL. You can find me on RPO Football and Fantasy Six Pack, usually writing about IDP. So I'm an even lower class of degenerate than the Dynasty.
Oh, I know who to bother. No, I play for some fair IDP. Actually, I think I was on Fantasy Pros. I was one of the better rankers in IDP last year as far as that goes. So I'm not quite there yet, but I'm getting pretty good at it. But I know whose brain I'll be picking. Actually, I have someone to bug now besides my buddy Iggy, IDP Iggy. I bug him nonstop for my IDP questions. So.
Yeah.
All right. Well, sorry, go ahead.
Happy to help.
Yeah. This has been Studs and Duds with Alex Michael. Once again, I am Aaron St. Dennis, the FF Mad Scientist, and this has been the Mad Science Lab podcast. Thanks again to Alex for joining me. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Have a good night.